I won't hesitate to put a bullet in you. Only I won't be so kind as to put the bullet in your brain. My friend Smith and Wesson here would enjoy having its way with you. I guarantee being ripped apart from the inside out isn't a pretty way to die." He released her with a forceful push and stepped backward. For the first time in hours, she was glad his goons held her upright. "No one fucks with me and lives, you understand?" She nodded in quick jerks, probably more out of reflex rather than a conscious effort. An uncanny shiver of relief melted over her. For whatever reason, he needed her around a little longer. She wasn't entirely sure, however, if that was a good thing or a bad. Chapter 1. Just a little bit longer. Megan Thomas whispered the words, trying to calm herself as she peered through the filmy shears hanging at the floor-to-ceiling casement window in her living room. She drew in a ragged breath, trying like hell to settle her jittery nerves. The black, late-model sedan sat parked far at the end of their winding drive, to the left of the street lamp's glow. She stood slightly behind the Chippendale chair she'd bought after she and Bradford had married, and in front of the exquisitely framed copy of the Picasso they'd found in Spain during their honeymoon. Once upon a time, all the polish and sophistication of the material possessions in her life meant the world to her. Funny how little they mattered to her now. She gripped the top of the upholstered chair back until her fingers hurt. Relax. Breathe. Impossible. She couldn't. She dared not allow herself to relax. Not for 1 second. She'd planned this day for too long. Entirely too long. If she could only make it through the next few minutes, hours, days, she'd have her life back. Finally have her life back. Glancing down at her clothing, she knew she looked nothing like herself. So far, so good. She didn't want any semblance of Megan Thomas to follow her out of this house. When she left the front door in a few minutes, she would leave Megan Thomas behind and become Meg again. Just plain old Meg. Too long in coming. Her main fear now was that Cindy, the girl from the mall, wouldn't keep her word. She ought to. Megan had given the girl $1,000 cash up front and promised her $5,000 more if she showed up at 8 o'clock this evening. Not to mention the trade they'd made that afternoon. Her Jag for the girl's late-model Honda. Sure, it seemed like a lot of money, but she had a lot of money, and she was buying her freedom. It was no easy feat to accomplish all she had the past 2 days. Of course, she couldn't have done it without Rudy, and Rudy's recent urgings for her to act now, while Bradford was out of town, fit perfectly into the plan. The only hitch being that Cindy didn't get the car until she showed up tonight, and she didn't get the $5,000 until she stayed for 3 whole days and nights in this house. Then she would meet Rudy at the mall for the payoff and the papers to the Jag. Rudy, bless her soul. Meg's only real friend in the world. If it hadn't been for her, she never would have had the courage to escape. And her limited window of opportunity dictated that it all had to come together within the next few minutes. It had to be now, her only chance. Bradford planned to make his bid into the political arena when he returned from London. She had to get out now, before he charmed his way into the hearts of his constituents, with her on his arm. If she didn't leave now, he'd never let her go. He wouldn't stand for a divorce, let alone a scandal. She couldn't live with him any longer. In fact, she suspected that if she lived with him much longer, he'd surely kill her. This was her only chance. She had to admit, she felt a little guilty involving the girl, but if Cindy followed her instructions to the letter, she'd be gone before Bradford arrived back home. She'd be fine and much richer. Megan knew if she could lie low until the divorce became final, Bradford couldn't use his conniving manner to persuade her to stay married to him. She was losing herself, her soul, her life. An engine roared outside her window, jarring her thoughts. With shaking fingers, Megan inched back the shears and peered through. The black Honda pulled into the circular drive and skidded to a stop in front of her house. Megan exhaled a long sigh of relief. Cindy, wearing the long black wig Megan bought yesterday afternoon, left the